Hello and welcome to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
And I am Adam Summers. And that's right. After a long break, we are back here on the free feed. It is, in fact, episode 1 of season 5 of Wrestling at Random. I cannot believe, not that we're back. You knew we were coming back. I cannot believe that we are in season 5 of this podcast already. Absolutely insane.
For those of you who are new to the show, this is how it works, and this is why we had a delay between seasons 4 and season 5. We take all of the internet's wrestling content and we dump it into the randomizer. We fire up the randomizer. It will select a show at random for us to watch. Could be anything. Could be a pay-per-view. Could be a weekly TV show. Could be from any territory, from any time. And it took a long time, because I had to take the randomizer apart. This is season 5. It's been chugging along for a lot of times. Took it apart, cleaned it, getting real deep cleaning, and then put it back together, loaded it up. It has never... Last season, we were talking about it busting at the seams. Over 19,000 entries of wrestling content into the randomizer for this season.
Several thousand of which are new possibilities for this season. We've been teasing it. If you've been listening over in the bonus feed, which will give you more information about that a little bit later on, but we've been saying how for season 5, the theme is going to be more stuff, and not only more stuff, but the possibility of shows, territories, promotions, oddball things that have never made their way in any way, shape, or form to Wrestling at Random, in addition to all the mainstream stuff that is in the randomizer. And this first episode, randomizer, it was not lying right out of the gate. It gave us something that we have not seen hide nor hair of in 4+ seasons now of this podcast, or in the many, many, many episodes over in the bonus feed.
We are talking about an episode of television from the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. Glow makes its debut on our podcast. It's the gorgeous ladies of wrestling from April 2nd, 1987. This is season 2, episode 6 of the show. A little bit about Glow, the promotion. It was the name of an all-women's television promotion taped at the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was formed by former Indianapolis-based wrestling promoter David McLean, and it ran in syndication from 1986 to 1990. It combined pro wrestling with vignettes. It was similar to the popular 70s TV show Hee Haw, and a cast of aspiring actresses and a few pro wrestlers. They were hired to play these various roles. Glow was a pretty big deal for the first 8 weeks of its run, as short-term TV ratings were doing incredibly well due to the novelty of scantily clad women wrestling. The ratings in many markets were comparable to syndicated ratings of WWF and Mid-South at the time.
Wow.
But after just 2 months, the novelty faded. The ratings fell, and as expected, the thing died when it went on the road for house shows. It folded after 1 season. It did spawn a new promotion called POWW, POW.
Which we've seen referenced on several AWA
yes.
mega shows where David McLean showed up in backstage interviews. There was that one show, that big stadium show they did where there's a women's battle royal, and throughout
the Rock and Wrestling from 87 there. Yeah.
Yes, that failed attempt by the AWA to compete with WrestleMania. But we had David McLean multiple times throughout the night in very wacky backstage promos with different wrestlers that were going to be part of a women's battle royal on that show.
Yeah, POW. Oh, you can hear that us review that show. It's in the archives of this free feed right now. It's evergreen content. Go fire that up. It's one of our best episodes. One of the most fun I had was recapping that AWA show. It's something. Definitely go back and check that out. The promotion POW, it was a similar concept to Glow, but was more wrestling based, using more well-trained wrestlers instead of aspiring actresses, which also lasted just 1 year in syndication. It also couldn't draw on the road, and that was the end of David McLean. The series is now fondly remembered due to the excellent Netflix television show based on Glow, called Glow. After Glow and POW ran its course, McLean ended up partnering with Jeannie Buss, the controlling owner and team president of the Los Angeles Lakers, to form WOW Women of Wrestling in 2000. The show aired in syndication for a few years, and they have had attempts over the years to remake it, and that really haven't gone anywhere or had close to the same success that Glow did in its initial launch.
I wonder if they took it on the road for house shows, if it would work.
Seasons
There's
1 and 2.
There's so much evidence leaning in one direction. But yes, we should reiterate that the episode that we are reviewing is not the Netflix Glow show. So if you fire up Netflix and go to season 2, episode 6 of Glow and attempt to follow along with what we're talking about here on this show, it will not line up at all. You should still watch it because it's a great TV show, but you're going to be really confused.
No, this is the actual syndicated program from 1987. Seasons 1 and 2 of Glow were shot at the Riviera Casino, like I mentioned, in Las Vegas. This show opens with Miles Headlock, a computer-generated knockoff of Max Headroom.
Yes, that's exactly what I wrote as well. We get some Max Headroom-looking dork called Miles Headlock. It's one of those things that it's a line of demarcation in terms of whether you are old or maybe not completely old. If you knew when watching this what this was so clearly a reference to, I was happy that I remembered it, and then it immediately got very sad and thought, I, in fact, am old.
Yes, for those who aren't as old as we, Max Headroom was a TV show of the time. And
oh my God. Maybe the most TV show of its time in so many ways.
Miles Headlock tells us some bad jokes, and then he's cut off by a Russian heel named Nitschka.
I thought they said Natasha or Natashka several times. The thing to know as we go through this is that every single line that the announcers say, whether it be here in the stand-up at the beginning or in the play-by-play such as it is during the matches such as they are, every single word these announcers are saying is scripted, it is stilted, it is terrible. You will appreciate the likes of Todd Grisham Phillips in comparison to these people. But this may be, again, pre-WWE going to writers and scripts, this may be the first fully scripted pro wrestling commentary on a wrestling TV show you've ever seen and heard.
And as far as fake Russians go, Nanichka had one of the best accents compared to the Crusher Khrushchevs or the Nikita Koloffs of the time.
Yes, by the standards of 80s Russian heels who are not Russian, and we see them in every territory, large and small, talented and not. She, by those standards, did a good job, I guess. The other really noteworthy thing of this opening little segment with these two beyond wacky announcers is that, like all the non-wrestling portions of this show, it has a sitcom-style laugh track, which I don't remember. As a kid, I think I'm pretty sure I watched some episodes of Glow, but the laugh track definitely stood out to me.
She says that she is, in fact, the Glow champion, but the committee has said that there is not a champion. So there is still no champion.
At this point, I was hoping it was the Truth Commission. We are going to get some Don Callis action here on this show.
We get an intro video with some highlights, and they run down the card. The main event will be a 12-woman tag team match.
Yes, a 12-woman tag team wild card elimination match. They gave away the other 3 matches at the outset, but we'll save those. We'll allow those to seep into your brain because we have more important things than that. As this is an old episode of wrestling television, not on Peacock or the WWE Network, that means one thing and one thing only. 80s commercials.
80s commercials, because this was someone put in a VHS tape and hit record, and you recorded from start to finish, and that included recording the commercials. And here we go with some 80s commercials. Joe Piscopo, speaking of the times, Joe Piscopo enjoys a Miller Lite.
A man of his times. I tend to think that if Joe Piscopo existed in the late 2000s into the 2010s, Joe Piscopo would have hosted Fear Factor. He would have been the color commentator for the UFC, and he would have had the world's largest podcast. He is Joe Rogan.
The next commercial we get is we're told we can meet new friends the fun way at 1550-teen for $1 per minute and 10 cents each minute thereafter.
Every moment of this commercial freaked me out. It's called a 1550-teen. Anyone can call. You can meet new friends the fun way and talk with 8 other teens. This just seems like a terrible idea on multiple fronts.
Phone numbers throughout these 80s commercials throw me because there's no area codes yet.
No.
And so, like, it's these weird short phone numbers. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. There's no area codes yet.
We then have a commercial, which we'll see multiple times throughout this show, where people went to the hospital for other serious reasons, such as breaking an arm or having triplets. But while they were there, they made the most important discovery of all, Cepacol, the hospital-grade mouthwash that you can now get at stores.
We see this ad, and this mouthwash looks gross. It is not appealing whatsoever. It looks every bit as medical grade, and I can taste how horrible it tastes just by watching it on TV.
The only question is, which fluid in the front end of your car is this being used as a mouthwash? It is not appetizing in any way, shape, or form. We then have a commercial for Landover Tractor Trailer School. Come a trucker today. Then we go back.
Oh, the best line. They'll put you on the road to a new career. I like that.
I like that. That's a lot of workshop in there in the marketing team for Landover. From there, we come back to the show, and it's time for Skits and Sketches, everybody.
We see David McLean in a phone booth on the street with a sign handwritten that says Glow Offices. He calls the New York Mets. He has a wrestler, the Princess of Darkness, that wants to work for you. She wants to be your Batgirl, and there's a laugh track.
This is the first of... There are many themes about Glow, which you've covered. The overarching theme, which is reinforced through every single one of these segments, of which there have to be, I would say, 15, 20 of these like 10, 15-second little zinger mini segments. Every single one of them proves that David McLean's Glow invented dad jokes. Every single one of these things that happens throughout the show is a dad joke.
Yes.
It's so weird.
We get a music video. The women of Glow are dancing, and I'm like, oh, are they going to rap? Are they going to rap? Yes, they are. It's like their version of the Super Bowl shuffle. Let's hear a little bit of the Glow rap.
I really feel like the phrase slam bam, it's a wrestling gym, needs to come back.
David McLean is also our ring announcer, apparently. He's in the ring as Attache. She's in like camo gear. She comes out. Her opponent is Susie Spirit.
Susie Spirit taking on Attache, managed by Aunt Kitty. And Attache has like a combination of sheer leotards and military fatigues, in addition to the camo paint. Susie Spirit comes out. She's from Philadelphia. I guess she's like Liberty Bell from the Glow TV show. I don't know. That was my takeaway from this. She's dancing, she's singing. So it's like these inset promos where as the wrestlers come out, we'll have an inset box, and it's basically a close-up on the wrestler with the other wrestlers around them from the Super Bowl Shuffle style set that you referenced from the song earlier. And she's talking about her Susie split finisher. David McLean then interviews her in the ring. Nobody seems particularly comfortable in these in-ring interviews. She says that Attache should be at the beauty parlor getting that camo sandblasted off her face.
Attache attacks her from behind, then runs away and hides again. Miles Headlock and Nachachka are the commentary team. Susie tackles her on the floor. They get back into the ring.
She hits this wild crossbody off the apron. Like, the story of this match is that these people are barely trained. They're trying some pretty ambitious stuff at times. And I'm consistently surprised throughout this match that it's not as horrifically bad as I'm thinking it's going to be every moment that it's about to fall apart, but never does. It's one of the oddest matches I've ever seen for that reason.
That's a great way to put it. Attache misses a dive off the middle rope, chases her around the ring. Susie hits a crossbody off the middle rope, then like a round off into a crossbody.
She does a handspring crossbody. Like, imagine I believe the actual handspring crossbody is in the old No Mercy games, but imagine the Great Muta handspring elbow. But here it's a crossbody at the end of that cartwheel. And then she goes for it again, and Attache counters this into a power bomb of sorts. What is happening?
Yeah, she trips her, and then she grabs the face paint and rubs it on her. She hits a pile driver and gets a 2 count only.
Yeah, hits a pile driver, stumbles around for a bit, and then Susie Spirit goes full Joshi and back bridges out of it to get out. You mentioned that trip earlier. Susie Spirit face planted nasty. Oh my God, that was terrifying. It was like El Phantasmo taking a drop or getting drop kicked to the knee and taking the DDT bump out of it. That's basically what this was.
Attache turns her back, and Spirit dumps her back electric chair style, but somehow scarier.
Oh my God. And we weren't the only ones that were scared, because Attache yelled, "Oh," as this was happening, and it makes it sound. It's basically like the ocean cyclone suplex, but done in the most terrifying manner possible. And again, I don't fully believe that either Attache or Susie Spirit had any idea that the moves they were doing were really close to really cool, legit moves, but it's really made for something entertaining in its own right.
Spirit hits a crossbody off the top rope, and she comes off in slow motion during the match and gets the pin. I howled with laughter.
So did I. So the match is going along, and again, it's a wrestling match in a wrestling ring. It's shot in a little bit more TV show style, but it doesn't look that different from pro wrestling. And then the finish comes, and it's not a after the finish slow motion replay. It is the finish happening in slow motion, as you said. Susie gets the win. David says Susie is the winner. Then Attache attacks her from behind as we go to commercial.
We get a commercial for Lee Press-On Nails, which...
The commercial of the decade of the 1980s. This was on everything.
Constantly.
It was on wrestling shows. It was on cartoons. It was on Price is Right. It was on everything that I watched, at least, which felt very strange that this was being advertised directly to me incessantly.
No, Lee Press-On Nails everywhere. If you said, who makes press-on nails, the answer is only Lee. Lee is the only maker of press-on nails, because that's all I saw in my childhood.
Strong brand identity from Lee here in the press-on nails market in the mid to late 1980s.
We then get a commercial for Beetlejuice. That's coming to a theater near you.
Yes, a trailer such as it was, and it was so fascinating to see, like, compared to modern movie trailers, which are just so big and epic and like fully produced. This, to your point, looked much more just like a commercial for a movie which would be airing later that night on this channel, which we'll see a couple of those later on, by the way.
And then I see the scariest commercial I've ever seen in my entire life. Donald Adams was accidentally released from prison by human error.
Yes,
and he's been on the run for months. Tune into America's Most Wanted to help capture him. Jesus, I was terrified.
Yes. This man committed a very violent crime.
Oh.
He was released from prison due to human error, which is a sequence of words you never want to hear together. No. He was on the run, but he was apprehended by America's Most Wanted, and apparently the goal was to utterly terrify us enough to then tune in at 6:30 and find out how America's Most Wanted got this worst man in the world. Yikes. The 80s were weird.
Here's another man of the 80s, Cy Sperling. He's the president of the Hair Club for Men.
He's also, you might not know, a client.
I've heard this. Back to the ring, where Dementia comes out. She gets wheeled out in like a little shark cage. She's got a hockey mask on. She's carrying an axe. And her opponent...
I'd like to think that Paul Heyman and Todd Gordon were watching Glow. Maybe they had some tapes. Maybe they're the source of this videotape. And this was the inspiration behind early ECW Sabu being wheeled out to the ring, being chained up with a Hannibal Lecter mask. I mean, this might actually have influenced that movie for all we know.
Her opponent is Tara, the Southern Belle.
We also should take a quick step back here and do a fashion corner on the set and the ring. It looks like a TV studio that you'd see for Territory Wrestling, more brightly lit, much more like a TV production studio, but about the same size. The ring, though, the ring itself, bizarre. So at first glance, it looks like a wrestling ring, right? Until you train your eyes to go to the ring posts. Most wrestling rings, the ring post, it's there. You can trace it, and it goes all the way down on the outside of the ring to the floor. Mm-hmm. This ring, it's the canvas in its rectangular shape. You know, the apron goes down the sides, but the corner post is inset. It goes down to the ring, and then you don't see it go down to the floor, and there's more ring around it in each corner. It is the strangest looking thing. It looks like a wrestling toy ring more than an actual wrestling ring.
Dementia dominating this match, but she gets distracted by her doll. The doll looks like Tara, and Dementia pulls the head off the doll. This is hard to watch, Adam. This is much more terrible wrestling than we got in the first match.
Those were my notes exactly. Like, I did not expect coming into this show, just remembering what I did about Glow and knowing about Glow, that it would be possible to have a delineation of match quality from match to match. However, the first match was not great, but they totally tried. Fine. They did some cool stuff. We had a good time watching it. This was one of those things we've talked about a few times here and there on the free feed, also on the bonus feed and recent episodes over there. When you see someone on a wrestling show, like as someone who's ostensibly wrestling, that does not seem entirely clear on what the concept of professional wrestling or being a professional wrestler is, that is kind of what we got here from particularly Dementia in this match, where she would do a move, I guess you could call it, and then would walk around the ring. And I guess maybe the idea was that her character is crazy, but it just came more off like, if you remember the one thing she was supposed to do, and then had to walk around the ring for 15 or 20 seconds so that she remembered what the next thing was that she was supposed to do. She also did, bar none, the worst, most hilarious, I would put it in the category of fun bad, axe handles you have ever seen. Yes. That I believe were supposed to simulate her stabbing her opponent in the stomach. She had her like over the knee in a backbreaker style position and was doing these axe handles, but it was just, oof, it was bad. This whole show could be a GIF that would make people laugh.
Dementia bites Tara's nose and the crowd chants, "We want blood."
Again, I think Todd Gordon and Paul Heyman were watching and taking notes here.
Clothesline and a splash. Dementia gets the win.
That splash. Oh my God. It was terrible. This was, even though Dementia was the heel, which meant she hit the splash, even though she's a relatively svelte wrestler. This is up there with some of the worst standing babyface splashes that we've ever had here in this podcast, and there's a long list of those.
We get Angel's Hell's Kitchen. Waitress hits a customer with a pie. Just real quick sketch. And then more commercials for Time Life Books presenting Mysteries of the Unknown, Unexplained Phenomena. This is in your wheelhouse. This is like Art Bell stuff for you.
Yes. So I grew up obsessed with UFOs. I remember being like at family birthday parties and walking around to everyone at the birthday party and telling them about all the crazy UFO stories I just read about. I was obsessed with all this stuff. I listened to Art Bell. I watched the X-Files. And so as this starts and it's Chicago and it's worried about a plane, he doesn't get on it. Then the plane crashes, but it's dismissed as coincidence. And I sit up on my couch here in 2023 as we record this, and I'm ready. Give this to me. Tell me more. We got all these different stories about psychics, about Stonehenge, about telepathy. And all I can think as I see this and they're flashing each Time Life book with a different heading is that I would have been the most annoying 6-year-old ever here begging my parents, absolutely begging them to spend like the $16 to get book number 1 for 10 days and then decide if you want to get another book that would
every month.
No, it would come about once a month was the exact quote, which I love I love the confidence in their editorial timeline here. But yes, I would have needed this.
Yes, Time Life Books was like a subscription book service where you got a book once a month for God knows how much they would charge you for this service that you could probably never cancel.
Well, and it was probably in a lot of ways like those CD services where you get like 15
Columbia
CDs
House.
for a penny.
You're talking about the Columbia House.
You get 15 CDs for a penny at the beginning, but then each CD thereafter costs you $99.99.
California Doll is her name. I'm sorry. She tells some jokes. If someone brings a snake to the match, that makes it a ringworm.
Again, all dad jokes.
This
entire show, it is all you can tell. Oh, it's wacky wrestling. Oh, it's scantily clad women in the 80s. No, this is dad joke central for 1 hour. She says, an undercover cop. That's a sleeping policeman. Laugh track. If a hurricane is named after a man, shouldn't it be called a himicane?
There you go. And then we get we get tips from Tina Ferrari, aka Ivory.
Yes,
from the WWF.
The only real wrestler that I'm at least aware of that I recognize here on this show is in fact Ivory as Tina Ferrari.
And then we get more music videos. It's the Glow Heel Women doing their rap.
Hey, you, don't yourself down. You're about to see the best show in town. It's got lots of glitter. It's got lots of class. And if you don't like it, we're gonna kick your... We don't do dishes, and we don't give sink. Game took place, so give them something. You're not at the opera, so anything goes. Come on down to ringside, and you'll see some love. We're nasty and mean. We're the sisters of the might. We like to be seen, and we love the fight. We're nasty and mean. Just show us to the mat. Just give us some sissies, and we'll knock them flat. Nasty and nasty.
And this was a full song. This I did not have the stopwatch out. This had to go 5 or 6 minutes. There were crazy women eating raw meat and throwing people off of slot machines and talking about taking their money and being nasty and mean.
They are nasty and mean. Absolutely.
This was something. My notes just say this is the 80s personified.
We get Soul Patrol. Can you make a sentence using the word nuance? every time we have a family reunion, we meet new aunts and uncles.
Again, another dad
joke.
The most unheralded theme of Glow.
We get a commercial for AT&T long distance. There's hours and a very complicated plan to make long distance calls at a reasonable price, but I couldn't follow along.
Well, I followed along a little bit better than you did, because this is, again, one of those things that if it sounds insane to you, congratulations, you're not as old as me. But this plan was called AT&T Reach Out America. This commercial starts with images of French fries being neatly packed in a bag, donuts being neatly packed in a dozen donut box. Apparently, the idea is that AT&T's Reach Out America plan is packaged for value and convenience, like those items. They then tell us how it's packaged. I am not feeling value, and I am certainly feeling inconvenienced. $8 per month. And for those $8 American dollars in 1987, which is probably like $300 now, you get 1 hour of out-of-state phone calls. Not per day, but for that entire month.
Yeah, and you better do it Sunday after 5 or something.
Not only is it 1 hour that you must spread out over the entire month, so you better hope that these people you know out of state are B, not plentiful, or A, I should say not plentiful, and B, you don't like them that much, or you don't need to catch up with them that much. It is only during the planned hours, which include all day Saturday, but Sunday only until 5 p.m., or weeknights, but only after 10 p.m. on weeknights.
This is crazy.
So to recap, $8, 1 hour. You can call all day Saturday, only Sunday until 5 p.m. or after 10 p.m. During the week. And this is both value and a great convenience to your life.
The referee says, I hear I'm as blind as a bat. And the doctor says bats have better eyesight than him. We then get...
For some reason, that doctor was listed on the door as being a gynecologist.
We then get Amy, the farmer's daughter. She's writing letters home from Las Vegas.
You'll be shocked to know she's telling dad jokes as well.
We get another commercial. Woody Allen in Broadway Danny Rose. Then we get a dandruff commercial where you never get a second chance. Commercial. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, Adam, with Head and Shoulders shampoo.
That is another one of those iconic 80s brands, Head and Shoulders shampoo. There was no greater scourge, with the exception maybe of Acid Rain in the 80s than
dandruff.
Having dandruff. You needed to get shampoo that could deal with that dandruff. We then go to something that I guess was the sister or brother to 550 Teen. This is 550 Date.
They
say, if you've ever dreamed you're the only man on an island of beautiful girls, call now to talk to up to 8 of them.
Yeah, crazy party lines. Party lines were a big thing in the 80s too. We then get a singles no DQ match.
Before that, we get Jerry Williams, who apparently was a big talk show host, I guess, in the 80s, or at least in the area that this show aired, that this version of this broadcast aired. And in 1987, the feature story is Ritalin driving kids crazy. I don't even remember that being a thing back in 1987.
We then go to the ring, a singles no DQ match, and we're introduced to Americana from Skokie, Illinois, of all places.
Yes, I took note of that as well. Why is this Americana, who's basically a walking American flag in human form, why did they choose Skokie, Illinois, of all places?
It's so weird. Her opponent, Skokie, is a northern suburb of Chicago. It's just a weird random town for them to choose. Her opponent, managed by Aunt Kenny, is Manna.
Kelly.
Kelly? Oh, Aunt Kelly. My notes say Kenny. Apologies. Aunt Kelly. Manna the Headhunter. And she comes flying in on a rope and knocks Americana down. This was quite an entrance.
We've talked before about great camera shots where a wrestler just appears and flies across the screen. Rob Van Dam doing the 5-star frog splash at Heatwave 98. Terry Funk flying across, or Ric Flair flying across the screen onto Terry Funk's back at the Clash of the Champions in 1989. This might take the cake as Manna the Headhunter swings from one side of the ring to the other. We don't see her until that point. She hits the drop kick. If you had ever wondered if there was something more objectionably stereotypical in wrestling than either Kamala or Saba Simba, the answer is Manna the Headhunter. As like, I don't even feel comfortable describing the first few minutes of this match, which are the Headhunter attempting to attack Americana with a spear.
That is correct. Attempting to stab her. Americana fights back by pulling hair. The Russian commentary is correct in pointing out the cheating. And then Headhunter hits her with the spear. Knee breaker on Americana. Loud USA chants.
In the middle of this horrible wrestling, this insane, even by 1980s, problematic stereotypes, in the middle of all that, the Headhunter hits a perfect Ric Flair knee breaker to set up a leg submission. That's what's so great about this show is it's just barely pro wrestling. And then someone will do something that's like a shockingly cool high-flying move or a technical wrestling move. You're like, oh yeah, I'm watching a wrestling show.
She kind of wraps her leg around the post a few times until Headhunter gets counted out. Security comes to pull her off.
Kinda is doing a lot of lifting there. That is the correct way to describe that around the ring post action that was occurring.
Security pulls her off. Your winner by countout is Americana. Nanichka is on the phone. She's drinking vodka in front of a flag of the Soviet Union. We then get commercials for Coors Extra Gold. And we're told run, don't walk, and ask for Extra Gold Draft. We see that gross-looking mouthwash again. And then a dude straight out of The Sopranos comes on and says he will replace your windows. Bay State Remodeling.
My notes are very close to yours on that commercial. I have this guy who absolutely sounds like a mob boss is trying to sell us on new modern fold-out windows. His name is Jim Lano, and he's with Bay State Remodeling. I have to go back, though, as someone who is much more of a connoisseur of a frosty beverage or two than I am. Was Coors Extra Gold Draft? Is that like a real thing? I remember I've heard of like Coors Light. I did not know they did anything other than that. I just remember seeing them on race cars.
As someone who is currently enjoying one of those beverages as we record this right now, I am not in fact drinking a Coors Extra Gold. No, I'm well versed in Coors Light. I'm well versed in Coors Banquet, but the Coors Extra Gold, I have no idea what the extra is in that Extra Gold, but that did not last. It did not last long.
I wonder if that was something that would have been served in the very rudimentary Wrigley Field Suites in 1987.
Well, yeah, in 1987, your only Wrigley Field choice was Old Style, which is totally fine. Right. It's a totally fine beer at that point. We go to an elimination match. 3 tag teams on each side. Okay? Elimination match, mind you. 3 tag teams on each side.
So elimination... You think 6-on-6 elimination, and that in your mind means, okay, one team has to eliminate all 6 members of this other team.
Makes sense to me.
To win. It's Survivor Series. It's New Japan elimination matches. The rules may change, but that is always a constant. Elimination means elimination.
The teams are Little Fiji teaming with Little Egypt.
We should note, neither of them are little people. They are full-sized.
They are full. Yes. We get Tina and Ashley. We get Amy the Farmer's Daughter, who we talked about that AWA Wrestle Rock show earlier that we reviewed. She was Brandy May on that AWA Wrestle Rock show.
I thought she looked familiar. Her tag team partner is, as we mentioned earlier, the California Doll, who has a surfboard. We'll see in a moment. I don't think that was surf grade material.
Their opponents, Soul Patrol, the team of Hollywood and Vine, and then the Heavy Metal Sisters, Chainsaw and Spike.
I thought I heard initially they said Chainsaw and Skype, and that may have actually been a misstatement by one of these announcers. I rewound. I heard Skype several times. I don't think Skype existed back then. I'm pretty sure.
Definitely
I
not.
think it certainly would have violated the AT&T Reach Out America plan. But yes, it is Chainsaw and Spike.
All the women are in the ring, and it's everything you hate about a battle royal.
Hey, it's not everything you hate about a battle royal. This started with a foam surfboard being broken into multiple pieces on the floor. That was awesome.
It gets more awesome because someone lights a blowtorch.
Yes, we think it is heavily implied that someone lights a blowtorch. We go full GWF here. I feel like Joe Pedicino is talking and it's global. Bonnie Blackstone's around somewhere because right as this is about to happen, we cut to a shot of the crowd. We come back and apparently the blowtorching had already occurred.
Yes, we did not see the spot where she gets burned with the blowtorch. David McLean is on the mic and he's screaming for paramedics. The Heavy Metal Sisters are hauled off by security. This is a chaotic scene.
It is actually pretty chaotic. Like,
yes.
By the standards of this show, this came off, while it was absurd what happened, the chaos, it felt pretty wild. The only thing that took away from it a little bit for me was seeing these cops, like they're dressed in cop uniforms, but they had the same IFBs that referees have to be able to hear the instructions from the back. But yeah, this whole match for the most part, again, because you've got 12 people in the ring, many of them are barely trained wrestlers. So there's not a whole lot of moves happening, but what they did seem to get the memo on is look like you all hate each other. It is fairly unhinged by, I think, what you would expect the standard of Glow to be.
So the Heavy Metal Sisters are hauled off, so I'm assuming they're eliminated. The match continues. Tina and Ashley are making a comeback. We get an airplane spin, shades of Mike Rotundo. Then
double airplane spin.
Splashes, and Tina and Ashley get the pin. That's it?
That was it. So apparently the elimination, this is as best I can tell, which is probably putting too much thought into it, but that's to win, you had to eliminate both members of one of the three teams that made up the team of 6. It's the only thing I can figure. But then the other team of 6 is announced in full as the winner. This was not the rules were not simple, Gary Michael Capetta.
We get our final commercial break. Art Linkletter tells us about the contour chair.
Well, first, Art Linkletter is very concerned about our health.
Yes.
He's sitting in this contour chair, and he wants us to know we could feel as good as he does. We then go to...
Hey, they do look comfy, by the way. These contour chairs do look mighty comfy.
I was yawning, and it was not because this show was boring. I was enjoying it in a weird way, this wrestling action. But yes, it looked comfy. It's always notable and noticeable when we do these shows or it has 80s commercials, how much quieter a lot of the commercials are. There's not just a million things happening and people screaming and music playing. Like, this is a really quiet commercial.
No, yeah, it's Art Linkletter in a chair saying, "This chair is comfy. Would you like me to send you a catalog?" Yes, send me a catalog, Art. That is how that commercial went for me.
Yes, exactly. We then have a commercial about the credit card for people who get rejected for credit cards, and it's called My Credit Card, apparently.
For $35, you can get a Visa or MasterCard through the program. It's basically, it's a credit card based on how much money you have in your account. So it's basically you pay $35 to have a debit card, basically.
Yes, that was going to be my note. It's basically you open up a savings account with them, and then you get a credit card to use in conjunction with the savings account. And my notes just say, correct me if I'm wrong, debit card?
There's a Glow hotline. 900-660-GALS for the Glow hotline. We get a commercial for the Glow magazine as well. And then we come back for the final jokes as the girls, they're just making bad jokes, like dad jokes the whole time as the credits roll and then the show goes off the air.
Yeah, we get a joke about dementia having an axe to grind. There's some weird thing at the end with some old lady brings some tall young lady to David McLean's hotel room, and David McLean rejects her, and the old lady is upset that this young woman did not get to go into the hotel room with David McLean. What in the hell was that?
Favorite thing on this show that wasn't an 80s commercial.
Oh, I was going to say the 80s commercials are
No.
undoubtedly the best thing on this show. Favorite thing on the show is the realization that Glow invented dad jokes. Best thing on the show by far was the opening match with Susie Spear and Attache, where they didn't quite 100% know what they were doing, but they did it so much better than I would have expected based on what this show is.
I'll agree with that. An honorable mention to David McLean for his enthusiasm during the ring announcing and the chaotic scene at the end, and thumbs up to the chaotic scene at the end. So those were all.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a good point. From the in-ring action, I would say that's the most memorable thing is that wild chaotic scene in the 12-person. And David McLean, he had to wear a lot of hats on this show. I assume he produced all these wacky, vignettes and dad joke segments and music videos, and he had to book it. He had to announce it. He had to ring announce it. Worst
thing on this show. There's a lot to choose from. Worst thing on this show.
No, there's not. Absolutely the worst thing on this show is the commentary, the play-by-play. It's Miles Headlock and Natasha just...
It's grating after. So David McLean did the play-by-play for all of season 1.
Okay.
And then this was season 2's idea. And it is grating by the end of the show for sure.
We may have discovered why the show really tanked. Maybe it's as simple as those announcers.
Honorable mention to Dementia's horrible wrestling as well.
Oh, no, you're right. 100% correct. By far the worst wrestler on the show, and there are things to choose from. Dementia was not good.
And that is this week's show. This is season 5. We are here now. Those of you who have been waiting for us to return to season 5, what you've been missing is a bunch of bonus content. We've been putting out shows every single week. We've got over 130 plus episodes in the bonus feed. What was this bonus feed you're talking about? Well,
yeah, probably over 150 by now. It's crazy.
And it's all evergreen content to you, just like the entire back catalog of this podcast, where you can go listen to AWA Wrestle Rock, where we talk about Brandy May and we talk about David McLean, we talk about Pow. All that stuff is there. Go listen to that episode. It's brand new evergreen content to you, but it's in the backlog here. If you go to our Patreon, patreon.com/wrestlingatrandom, that is where we put out a show every single week. Even when we're putting out a show on the free feed, we're also putting out a show on the bonus feed over there. And Wrestling at Random, patreon.com/wrestling at random. That's where you can subscribe and get all of the bonus content there. In your Apple Podcast feed as well, you can click the subscribe button. It'll unlock everything that's labeled as bonus content in that feed. You can also go to Spotify now, and in Spotify there's a bonus feed as well. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you can listen via that podcatcher as well. So lots of ways to support the show to get extra bonus content. And every single week we're putting out bonus episodes, and there's a whole bunch in the backlog. If you're just joining now, it unlocks every single episode. You get right now for $5. Can you believe it? 130 plus episodes.
Yeah, you could go in right now. Not that we necessarily recommend this, but you could go in right now and you could subscribe. You could download all those episodes and have all those episodes available to you just for that first month, and go for it. Listen, we don't think you will, though, because we know you will enjoy those so much and enjoy having, as this season goes along, multiple episodes to listen to every week. You'll come back for more. The bonus feed, there's some crazy stuff over there. You thought Glow was wild? Go check out the bonus feed.
And if you cannot support the show financially during these times, we understand as well. You can support the show via word of mouth. Tell your wrestling fan friends about the show. Wrestling fans know other wrestling fans. Tell them about the show. Tell them how to subscribe to the podcast. And you can continue to get free episodes every single week on this feed right here. Follow us on social media. We're at Wrestle at Random on Twitter, X, whatever it's called today, Threads, Instagram. We are everywhere, and we will put up GIFs of what's going on in the bonus content. We will put up GIFs for previewing what's coming up on this week's episode before it comes out. Make sure you're following us there. Facebook.com/wrestling@random as well. All of the links I described, the entire back catalog of this podcast, everything is available at the website, wrestlingatrandom.com. We also have a video version. I almost forgot to mention the video version of the podcast over at YouTube. Wrestling at Random Podcast. If you search for it over on YouTube, there you can get the video version of the podcast for those who like to consume their podcasts via YouTube. And you can see Adam and I discussing the show there. It's another great way to support the show is to give us a subscribe over at the YouTube channel as well. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. We're calling it a podcast. Glad to be back, Adam.
Yes, so glad to be back. So glad to have season 5 up and running. Glad to have Glow in the mix now for all the different territories and promotions we've done at Wrestling at Random. And again, just imagine if the randomizer has Glow in it, think what else could possibly happen in upcoming episodes of this season of Wrestling at Random.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.